Hello everyone, my name is Diksha and I am from the Bodhi Academy, and today I am going to discuss one of the important chapter from 12th chemistry, that is D and F block elements. So let us start with the D and F block elements chapter. First of all, we will see where the D and F block is located in the periodic table. So this is a rough structure of periodic table in which the first group, this is S block, then this is D block which is in between S and P, and the last one is P block. Then down we have F block. Now D block is called as transition elements and F block is called as inner transition elements. Why D block is called as transition elements? The reason is we have metallic character of the elements which are there in S block and non-metallic character in the P block. So going from metallic to non-metallic character, we have these elements which are called as D block elements, which that's why there is a transition happening from metallic to non-metallic character, which is termed as transition elements. Okay, and these F block are called as inner transition elements. Why they are called as inner transition elements? Because actually they belong to this block. Okay, but due to they do not exist in a the way these other elements are there, so they are there in there are two elements, that is actinium and lanthanum and actinium, so in which they are embedded, so that's why they are called as inner transition elements, which are grouped separately and called as F block elements. So talking about D and F block, first of all we will discuss their configuration. So electronic configuration of D block element is N minus 1 D 1 to 10 Ns 1 to 2. N minus 1 D 1 to 10. Now what is N? N is the quantum number which is the highest quantum number from the configuration. So here we have N as a quantum number. So N minus 1. If you have N as 4, then N minus 1 will be 3. So 3. So 3D 4S, that will be the configuration. So 3D, now it will occupy 1 to 10 electrons and here 1 to 2 electrons. Okay. Now next, here we will discuss about their electronic configuration. We have already discussed the formula, like how to N minus 1 D 1 to 10 Ns 1 to 2. Then here we will study one important series, okay, that is elements from 21 to 30. Okay, 21 is what? 21 is scandium, 22 is titanium, 23 is vanadium, 24 is chromium, 25 is manganese, then 26 is iron, 27 cobalt, then 28 nickel. Okay, and then nickel, copper, and last is zinc. So that we will discuss thoroughly. So transition elements, that is C. This is the first series in which we have scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel, copper and zinc, and their atomic numbers are given below. Okay, and their configuration is given, like that is scandium is having configuration, like here we have to take argon as a noble gas and then you have to continue with the configuration. So scandium is having argon 3d1 4s2, titanium is having argon 3d2 4s2 and so on. So here what you need to observe, that you can easily remember the configuration by looking at their numbers. If you know configuration of one of these elements, you will easily remember the configuration of other elements. Okay, how you will remember? See, scandium is 21. So 21 meaning we have, after argon we have how many electrons? 3. So it will be 3d1 4s2, because argon is 18 plus 3 is 21. Okay, and you can also remember this. See, this is 12 1 2, so opposite to that is 2 1, so 21. If you talk about titanium, so it will be 22, no, so it will be 3d2 4s2. Okay, if you talk about vanadium, then it will be 3d3 4s2, that is 23. Okay, see, here 21, 22, 23. Here only you will see difference in the case of chromium and copper. Okay, that is there is a no expected electronic configuration is seen in chromium and copper. Now let us see why it is so. So chromium number is 24. So electronic configuration, actually it should be argon 3d4 4s2. Okay, this should be the actual expected configuration, but the configuration shown by this element is argon 3d5 4s1. This is the configuration shown by chromium. Now see why it is showing this configuration, because we know that maximum electrons D can take are 10 electrons. Okay, so if it takes 5 electrons, then it will be half filled orbital, because see, if this is a d orbital, then we have 5 orbital here. So 5 electrons means all 5 are filled but half. So in half filled and fully filled state, it is stable. Okay, d orbital is stable in half filled and fully filled state. That's why in chromium, when it is 3d4 4s2, if it takes one electron from this s, it will achieve this configuration 3d5 4s2. So this will attain the stability of chromium. So that's why it exists in this 3d5 4s1. Similarly copper is 29, so it is having configuration, actually it is 3d9 4s2 copper. Okay, 29, but due to fully filled configuration, when it takes one electron from s orbital, it achieves fully filled configuration. So that's why we have 3d10 4s1 configuration of copper. Okay, so this is about the configuration, which is very important in this chapter, and based on this there are so many questions which are asked. Okay, based on this concept, and also they ask configurations of any element. Okay, and you should understand that chromium and copper is having different configuration. Okay, then second, third, fourth series, they just, you need to know about their some points. Configurations are not that important here. Okay, now one more thing here you need to understand is, if you observe zinc is having what, 30 number. So zinc is 30, so the configuration of zinc will be what, argon 3d10 4s2. That means d orbital is having full 10 electrons and s is having full 2 electrons. So this is fully filled orbital. So zinc is having fully filled configuration. Along with that, cadmium from the second series is having fully filled configuration. Also mercury is having fully filled configuration. So that's why these elements will not be considered under transition elements. Okay, now the question is asked most frequently, that why these elements are not considered as transition elements. Okay, so the reason is, since these elements have fully filled electronic configuration, they are not considered as the transition elements. Okay, so this is one point we have to remember. Then we'll move on to the physical properties. So here we will see first about melting points of transition elements. So transition elements are very hard and have low volatility, means they have very high melting and boiling point. Okay, so why this high melting point we can see in these transition elements? Because see, the in transition elements we have d orbital. So d orbital means mostly we can see vacant electrons in the d orbitals. So vacant electrons in the d orbitals will lead to more strong bonding with other atoms, and more strong bonding means bond dissociation enthalpy will be very high. So that's why what happens here is high melting point and high boiling point we can see in this type of elements. Okay, so in any row, melting points of this rise to a maximum of at d5 except for anomalous values of manganese and technetium, and fall regularly at the atomic number increases. So here we can see in these first elements, titanium, vanadium, chromium, melting point increases. Okay, it increases because we have, as we go from 21 to 30, we can see first the number of unpaired electron increases, then again it decreases. So till chromium it increases, then again it decreases from chromium to manganese. Now this is the deviation or this is the exception that we can see here, actually it should increase. Okay, so this exception we can see chromium to manganese. Okay, so the reason here is that in any row, now this metal is having d5 configuration. So chromium is having what? We have all the d orbitals half filled, so d5 configuration. And then again going, if you go to manganese, chromium is having higher, then manganese is little lower. Manganese here melting point decreases. Okay, so here what happens is, greater the number of valence electrons, stronger is a resultant bonding. So that's why the enthalpy of atomization is important for determining the standard electrode potential. Okay, so that's why here it decreases, again it increases at iron, and again decreases because the number of valence electrons, which are unpaired electrons, decreases. Okay, so this is the trend that we can follow here in this melting point order. Then next is variation in atomic and ionic sizes of transition elements. So we can see that if you observe, these are all the series: first series, second series, third series, and fourth series. So we see that scandium from going, actually when we go down the group means in each group we see, when you go down the group, the size actually increases, size of the atom, or size of the, more and more shells are being added, so size increases. But when you see second and third series, okay, if you see second and third series, then there is no much increase in their radius or no much increase in their size. Okay, now what is the reason why they are not showing that much of increase here? Because when you go from this in second and third series, from second to third series, as you go, there are involvement of d and f orbitals. Okay, so f orbitals, they show very poor shielding, and poor shielding means what? There will be contraction which will take place between the outer electrons and the nucleus, and which will lead to decrease in size. And all you can see, second and third series elements will almost have the same radius of in their this shell. Okay, so that's the reason here the size decreases. Okay, so we will discuss it properly here. Okay, see here what we can see, variation within a series is quite small. Variation means was the size of the second and third series, the variation is small. And here what is the reason for that? So here, when atomic sizes of one of the series are compared with those of corresponding elements, the curve shows an increase from first to second, that is third to 3D to 4D series, but the radii of third series are virtually the same as those of second series. So second series, now this is series 1, series 2, series 3. So series 1 we can see there is this trend which is followed, second and third. So if you observe, see, this is the trends in atomic radii of transition elements, in which green color is shown by first series and blue and red is shown by second and third series. So first series is normal, it's showing the normal values, but second and third series, they are almost equal. Now what is the reason behind this is the lanthanoid contraction. Okay, lanthanoid contraction means what? It is the contraction due to poor shielding of f orbitals. Okay, so here what happens, the net result lanthanoid contraction is second and third series exhibit smaller radii and have very similar and physical chemical properties. So most common example here is zirconium and hafnium, which is frequently asked in the exam. So why the question on this is like, why zirconium and hafnium show similar properties, or why zirconium and hafnium are difficult to separate, or why zirconium and hafnium are having similar radii? Then the reason will be what? Due to lanthanoid contraction, okay, in which the poor shielding of f orbital takes place, due to which the sizes of zirconium and hafnium, which are from two different series, remains same. Okay, then next we will discuss is about ionization enthalpy. Here, ionization enthalpy, basic definition, we know that it is the energy to remove the outermost electron. Okay, so if you see ionization enthalpy, if you consider, okay, if you consider from scandium to zinc, then here in scandium we have normal configuration 3d1 4s2, then 3d2 4s2. Okay, so ionization enthalpy, first ionization enthalpy means what? The energy required to remove the outermost electron. So here the outermost electron will be what? Outermost electron is this, from s orbital. So here to remove from s orbital, it is not that easy because it is fully filled, but you can remove the electron here, and to remove the second electron it will be more easy here because here we have in s orbital only one electron. Okay, but as you go to the manganese, okay, manganese, then we have 3d5 configuration over here. So when you have 3d5 configuration, to remove this first two electrons, that is from 4s, to remove these electrons, it is very easy. Okay, that's why their values are less. But when you remove the electron from d orbital, that is the first electron, outermost electron from d orbital, the energy required is 3260. Okay, and this energy is very high. Now why this energy is high? Because in this state manganese is having half filled stable configuration. So since it is stable, it will not give its electron easily, so that's why energy required is very high. Similarly, we will observe the same thing in copper. In copper we have third ionization enthalpy, that is first ionization enthalpy will be what? When you remove the first electron. Second ionization enthalpy when you remove the second electron. So here also that ionization enthalpy is very high because it is, the copper is in its stable electronic configuration. Similarly with zinc, we have very high value for ionization enthalpy. So if they ask why they have high ionization enthalpy, then reason will be this. Okay, so so this is about ionization enthalpy of the elements. Then about oxidation state. Now these elements have tendency to exhibit n number of oxidation state or many oxidation state. You can see in this table that scandium exhibit only one oxidation state +3, titanium +2, +3, +4. Then from vanadium it goes on increasing till manganese. Then again it decreases. Okay, so manganese is having the highest oxidation state, that is +7. Plus it is also having many oxidation states, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are total 6 oxidation states exhibited by the manganese. Okay, so this is about their oxidation state. And what is actually oxidation state? The tendency of them to lose electron or form bond with other electrons. So scandium can lose 3 electrons easily. Actually all elements are having +3 oxidation state common here, most of the elements. And what you need to remember here, the elements which shows higher oxidation state and other oxidation state of the elements. Okay, so why it increases here? Because when you go from scandium to manganese, unpaired electrons increases, but when you again go from manganese to zinc, unpaired electron decreases. So that results in the oxidation number of these particular elements. Then next is about trends in M2+ to M standard electrode potential. Now the unique behavior of copper having positive E0 value account for any inability to liberate H2 from acids. Now here we have to see the tendency of this metal to behave as a reducing agent, oxidizing agent based on their values. Okay, so here we can see this is the graph which is showing observed and calculated values for standard electrode potential of some elements, that is from titanium to zinc. Okay, so this depends on their ability to liberate the hydrogen ion in acid. Okay, so here we will see why this is so. See, when we have, suppose copper as a metal. Okay, copper we have as a metal which will go in this state, copper 2+. So copper is having configuration as what? It is having 3d10 4s1, argon 3d10 4s1. So So Cu2 plus means what? Cu2 plus is when you remove one electron from s orbital and one electron from d orbital. So it will make 3d9 configuration. Yeah. So here when you remove this electron from d orbital, it's not so easy. Okay, there is very high energy which is required to remove the second electron from d orbital. So that's why here the energy required is very high. So that's why high energy is required to transform copper to copper 2 plus, and it is not balanced by hydration enthalpy. That's why copper is having very high positive value of electrode potential. Okay, then similarly same thing, M3 plus to M2 plus. See, if the element is having this state, suppose we take here zinc. Zinc is having 2 plus state and it is undergoing this 3 plus. So zinc 2 plus means what? Zinc 2 plus means we are having configuration 3d10 because 4s2 2 electrons are removed because of this 2 plus, and zinc 3 plus means 3d9. So when we go from zinc 2 plus to 3 plus, it is very difficult process, or the very high energy is required for this process. That's why zinc we will not be able to see in zinc 3 plus state anymore. Okay, so zinc is only we can see in zinc 2 plus state. That's the reason, because there is very high energy required to remove that electron. Then trends in stability of higher oxidation state. Now see, higher oxidation states are stabilized by the elements such as the elements which are most electronegative, such as fluorine. Fluorine is the most electronegative, so that's why fluorine is mostly used to stabilize higher oxidation state, which is +5, +4, +6. Okay, so that's why we are able to see the compounds such as VF5, CrF6, vanadium pentafluoride, chromium hexafluoride. Okay, because they have ability to stabilize the oxidation state. And then next important concept over here is magnetic properties. Now what are different magnetic properties that we see here? That is diamagnetism and paramagnetism, which are related to this concept. Now what are diamagnetic? They are repelled by the applied magnetic field, while paramagnetic are attracted by the magnetic field. Then substances which are strongly attracted are called as ferromagnetic, which we don't have in this. So ferromagnetic are strongly attracted. Now see, in this chapter we are going to learn about only two magnetic character, that is paramagnetism and diamagnetism. Now when we see paramagnetism, when we have unpaired electrons. So paramagnetism arises from presence of unpaired electrons, each such electron having magnetic moment associated with its spin angular momentum. So we will see how to find the magnetic moment. Magnetic moment is basically given by this formula, mu is equal to root of n plus 2. So if I told to find out the magnetic moment of this scandium plus 2, okay, so scandium plus 2, scandium is having what configuration? Scandium is 21, so it is having 3d1 4s2. Okay, in d orbital how many electrons we have, that we have to see. In d orbital we have only one electron, so here only one electron. So mu value will be given as n plus 2. So it will be root of n. N is what? N is the number of unpaired electrons. So here there is only one electron. Again it will come here. So it will give us value 1 into 2 plus 1 is 3. So root of 3. Okay, now how to remember these values? No need to calculate this. See, if there is root 3, okay, if there is root 3, then it is close to root 4. So root 4 value is 2, right? So that's why root 3 value will be 1.73 or 1.75. Okay, around this 1.75, 1.73 the value you will get. Okay, so that you have to remember. Okay, no need to calculate here. Then if you have two unpaired electrons, let us take one more case here. Titanium plus 2. So Ti plus 2. Normally titanium is having 3d2 4s2. This is the configuration. Okay. So when you remove two electrons, okay, that is from S, you will be having configuration of Ti plus 2 as 3d2. So 3d2 meaning only 2 electrons in d orbital. So that will give 1, 2 unpaired electrons. So that's why we have root of n plus 2. So it will be 2 into n plus 2. Sorry, 2 into 2 plus 2. So it will be 2 into 4. 4 2s are 8. So it is root 8. Now we know that root 9 is 3. Okay, root 9 is 3. So root 8 will be what? Root 8 will be somewhere close to 3. That will give us value 2.84. Okay, so these values are almost, they are approximately 2, 3. There after rounding up you will get that number, but you have to write it in this way. Okay, either 1.7, 1.8 or to 3.8, that way. So you need to remember that when there is one unpaired electron, value is 1.73. When there are 2 unpaired electrons, it is 2.84. When there are 3 unpaired electrons, it is 3.87. That is, they are close to the root value. Like if you have root 8, then it is close to root 9. So we know that root 9 is 3. So 3 meaning this value will be around 2.8 or 2.7. Then if you have root 15, when you get root 15, when we take 3 number here. Okay, here 3 and here it will be 5. 5 into 3 is root 15. So root 15 means we will see root 16. Root 16 is 4. So root 15 will be around 3 point something. So that's why we get this value. So these values are based on this equation, and which is very easy. Okay, so here they have given one problem about divalent ion in aqueous solution if its atomic number is 25. 25 means we have manganese. In aqueous solution it forms plus 2. So Mn plus 2. So we have 3d5 4s2 normal manganese. So when you remove 2 electron, it is 3d5. So in d orbital we have all 5 electrons. So it will be n will be 5. Here also 5. So 10 into 5 is 5. Sorry, 5 plus 2 is 7. 7 into 5 is root of 35. We know that root 36 is 6. So root 35 will be 5.92 Bohr magneton. This is the unit of magnetic moment. Okay. Now based on unpaired electron, you have to classify them into paramagnetic and diamagnetic. Paramagnetic is the one who is having unpaired electrons. Diamagnetic is the one who is not having any unpaired electron. So if they are all electrons paired, or if there is no unpaired electron, then it is diamagnetic, and when you have unpaired electrons, then it is paramagnetic. Okay, next thing is the color complex formation. See, color formation is also due to unpaired electrons, that you have to remember. Now why this color, why we see colors here? Because when electron from a lower energy from d orbital excited to higher energy d orbital, and excitation corresponds to the frequency of light absorbed, and it lies in visible region. So that's why we can see the color. Color corresponds to complementary color. So the frequency of the light absorbed is determined by nature of the ligand. Now ligand we will study in coordination chemistry chapter. So yeah, there you will understand. So here configuration, example and color. Now here also this table tells us about the compound which is colorless and having color. Basically they don't ask specific color, you just need to know why they are colored and why they are colorless. So in this first case, scandium plus 3, we can see that the configuration of D is 3d0. Why? Because there is no electron left in this state, so that's why it becomes colorless, since there are no unpaired electrons or no electron. In titanium plus 4 state also there is 3d0, which is colorless. Then titanium plus 3 will have one unpaired electron, that's why it shows purple color. Vanadium plus 4 shows blue color, because it also have one unpaired electron. So color, which color they show, that doesn't matter, only you need to know why they are colored and others are colorless. Okay, so the reason is the one who is having unpaired electrons are colorless, and the one who are having paired electrons or who are not having unpaired electrons are colored. The one who are having unpaired electrons are colorless, and others the one who are having unpaired electrons are colored, and the one who are not having unpaired electrons are colorless. Okay, so next property of these elements are formation of complex compounds. So they have tendency to form complex compound. The main reason here, they have vacant d orbitals which helps in the formation of complex compounds. Okay. So transition elements form large number of complex compound due to comparatively, first of all, they have smaller size and their high ionic charges and availability of d orbitals for bond formation. This is very important, which can be asked during exam. Then also they have catalytic properties, that means they have tendency to form the catalyst. Here also there are some reasons which enables them to form the act as a catalyst. The first reason is they can adopt multiple oxidation states. Since they have this ability, they can behave as a good catalyst. Okay, so this is the main reason behind this. And they since they have tendency to change the oxidation state, okay, or a tendency to reduce or oxidize other this, so they have this catalytic properties. They can be easily used in the reaction. For example, vanadium oxide is used in contact process, okay, for H2SO4 preparation. Then iron, finely divided iron used in Haber's process for production of ammonia, and nickel is used in catalytic hydrogenation. Then formation of interstitial compounds. Interstitial compounds are what compounds? The compounds in which small atoms are trapped in the metals. Okay, so interstitial compounds are those when small atoms like hydrogen, carbon, nitrogen trapped inside the crystal lattice of the metals. So here these are the examples of interstitial compounds. Because of the nature of their composition, these are referred to as interstitial compounds. Now there are some characteristics which we have to see here, that they have high melting points, higher than those of pure metals. They have very hard, their borides approach diamond in hardness, and they retain the metallic conductivity, and they are chemically inert. Okay, chemically inert means they will not react that easy, since they have very high melting point and they are very hard. There is one more property here, that is alloy formation. Now alloy means what? When two or three metals are combined, they form alloys. Okay, for example, we have come across some of the alloys in lower classes also: brass, bronze, then solder. See, brass is the mixture of copper and zinc, bronze is the mixture of copper and tin. So these are the example of alloys. Okay, now they have tendency to form alloys, transition metals. Okay, then next is about their oxides and oxoanions of metals. So this some of the metals, they have tendency to form oxides and oxoanions. So very first example here is potassium dichromate, which is K2Cr2O7, which is a very good oxidizing agent, okay, in which chromium is involved. Okay, so here first of all the preparation method is given. It is prepared from sodium dichromate along with KCl to give potassium dichromate. Okay, so here the important is they can ask one of this diagram, okay, chromate or dichromate. So you have to learn the diagram here: CrO4 2 minus and Cr2O7 2 minus. Then next is potassium permanganate, which is also one of the good oxidizing agent, having KMnO4 as a formula. Then this KMnO4, here these two diagram are very important, which you have to study, and this helps in these are very good oxidizing agents. So these are used in the oxidation reactions of many reactions. So iodine, here iodine is treated with this manganate to give manganese and water, which to form I2, so it is oxidized here. Okay, so similar way all these other elements are undergoing oxidation reaction. Next elements are inner transition elements, which are called as lanthanoids and actinoids. Now here only few points you need to remember, because there is no much study done on these elements, as they some of them are radioactive and they are not involved much in the reaction. The lanthanoids are the elements, it is the first series of F block. Okay, so and their electronic configuration is here they have shown C. This is the electronic configuration lanthanum. So lanthanum to lutetium, this comes in lanthanoids. Okay, so their electronic configuration is starts from here. Actually, lanthanum is not considered under lanthanoids. Lanthanoids means from cerium to lutetium actually. Okay, that's why lanthanum is the starting element which will begin the lanthanoid series. But cerium, from cerium they are included in lanthanoid. So that's why here 4f orbital is involved. So electronic configuration will be 4f 1 to 14, because in f orbital maximum electrons we can take is 14. Then 5d 1 to 5d 1 and 6s 1 to 2. So this will be general configuration of lanthanoids. Then electronic configurations, only some they ask here. The most important thing they ask here is about lanthanoid contraction, which you have to know. So overall decrease in atomic and ionic radii from lanthanum to lutetium is called as lanthanoid contraction. This is very important definition. Okay. Then you need to know here that their common oxidation state is +3. Then one of this reaction is asked, meaning when lanthanoid reacts with all this, like when it reacts with acids, it forms H2, liberates H2. When halogens, then it forms lanthanum trihalide. With water, it forms hydroxide. With carbon, carbide. Nitrogen, nitride, and heated with sulfur, sulfide, and when burned with oxygen, it forms oxide. Then actinoids also same thing. Configuration is involving f orbital, and here we see actinoid contraction. So actinoid contraction is same as lanthanoid contraction, that is gradual decrease from the element, that is actinium to lawrencium in the radius. Okay, this is actinoid contraction. Now here there is one question which is asked, why actinoid contraction is greater than lanthanoid contraction. Now what will be the reason here? Because actinoids are the elements which are in the last series over there in F block. So over there we can see that there is a very poor shielding of f orbital. Very poor shielding means more contraction. More contraction leads to the large difference. So that's why actinoid contraction will be more than lanthanoid contraction. Okay, so with this we finish D block elements chapter, D and F block elements chapter, and I am going to solve some of the important questions from previous year question papers, okay, in one video. So yeah, I'll stop here.